Again, if you closed off a few of those, certainly the more dangerous ones and the more odd ones at difficult points and flow, would that in itself cause an insupportable diversionary impact on your own roads, on the county roads, the local roads?
In terms of the first part of the question, the dynamic and real-time information systems, where it is far out from the A12, i.e., as far back as maybe the M25, the M11, that would be intended to be a diversionary route, but along key strategic routes, whether it's the A120, A414, or others. However, you've hit on a real big issue. If there was information on the network which highlighted problems ahead, there is no suitable alternative diversionary route, in my view, for traffic to move off the A12 in big numbers, in terms other than potentially possibly the A130 at that point, and maybe the A120, but that's a more strategic thing again. The suitability of the roads to take that traffic, if we did divert it, it was very poor. It's a judgment call whether you want people queued on the A12 in the state of an incidence, or do you want to let them loose into the rest of the network and cause chaos there. I don't think there's a suitable alternative route locally. I think the approach we would do via that information system is try and get to people early so that they can then make rational decisions about whether they want to travel at all or do something else. That's probably the best in that sense.
Part of the issue is the information we have asked for, which is what is the length of the journey, because clearly if you're only going 5 miles down the road, then the possible diversion is substantially greater. If this is primarily a relatively long distance commuter route, then the situation, if you haven't got any obvious diversionary strategic road, is much more problematical.
But potentially, I mean, there could be, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 on and off-peak time, 4,000 or 5,000 vehicles, I don't know, maybe suddenly stopped. The issue is if you diverted those into the network, or how far back you try and stop them. If you let them loose,
I thought Will Whitty was also asking a slightly different question, which wasn't so much about information off the A12 itself when there is a problem. I thought you were asking a question about the rather large number of lay-bys and access points that the road has, and whether maybe reducing some of the access points and certainly reducing the number of lay-bys is part of the short-term solution for this road. Is that what you were after?
In answer to that part, my view is there's too many. I think we counted 27 in either direction. That's quite a substantial.
That's lay-bys.
Lay-bys, yeah. On top of that, there are private accesses, which I'll come on to in a second. I would recommend it's worth a review of rationalisation of those lay-bys. Either fix them or get rid of them, right? And put proper facilities in. In terms of the private accesses, difficult. Whereas I think each one would need to be judged on its case, on its own merits, to see what alternative they've got. Because some of them, it is their only access, I think. Right? But there are other things on that road which you have to question, do they need to be there? For example, there are sub-service stations on that road, directly accessing on that road, with hugely substandard junctions on it, and I've seen accidents personally myself there. You could look at the question, let's build something proper then, linked possibly with the potential freight service facility opportunities, or you could say, well, hang on, we're not prepared to take these on anymore. So those service station areas will have an impact, not just on accidents, congestion. It's the same logic as said before. People slowing down on a substandard access, either on or off slip, will affect congestion and it will affect accidents. So I would say private access is very hard. The the service facility accesses, I think it's going to be really sensitive and difficult, but it's a matter of understanding potential planning opportunities, I think.
Well, I was also including in that the local roads access.
Yeah. There are local road accesses that would need to either make them fully standard or fit for purpose, or shut off and look for alternatives. There are some, if you like, low class roads feeding onto there, which you could possibly look at dealing with it another way. That will probably require a fuller analysis of the junction strategy for the route anyway, given that technically some of those junctions are regarded as at grade, but you've seen them yourself. I would not call them at grade in the sense I understand. So you could, but based on an assessment of, if you like, the accident analysis and the capacity issues along the road, identify a strategy that could be phased to systematically upgrade the junctions.
Okay. I'm very conscious. I think our next witnesses have arrived, and I rather suspect we haven't quite exhausted what you'd like to say, Tony, or indeed the questions we would like to ask. If we were bold enough to ask you to come back again, either at, in hearing like this, or perhaps just to continue a conversation slightly more informally, you'd be happy to do so.
I'm happy to do that.
I think it would be helpful. Maybe after we've heard a few more witnesses and we begin to get some thoughts emerging, perhaps to talk to you again. If you'd like.
Happy to do so. I'd like to do so.
I'm very grateful. That was hugely helpful. Thank you, Tony.